Well, welcome back, Helldivers. We are 14 hours, so just over half of a day into a 4-day major order, and it is already a disaster. Additionally, it is typically a patch day since it is a Tuesday, but we did not see any patches being released, and Arrowhead did say it would be mid-October. I suspect these two are tied together, this major order and the lack of a patch. This major order seems to be setting up for the patch to come out next week. We're getting ready to launch that offensive onto Oshani, and to do that, we need to fortify the defenses around Hellmire, basically taking Erata Prime and Estanu. Now, what's happening in addition to taking those, we need to hold Hellmire throughout, of course, because what's a major order without having to hold Hellmire at this point? And of course, Hellmire came under attack. Fortunately, it did come under attack from Estanu, but it was not the one that everybody was diving on. Everybody decided to start working on Erata Prime, which made sense. It should have gone fast, and it looked like we were on track to liberate it within 24 hours. But Estanu was launching an offensive on Hellmire, so that created that defense operation over there. So all three planets from the major order basically active, and we had a very small window to move everybody from Erata Prime over to Estanu. Play the Gambit card. We probably could have taken Estanu inside 24 hours. I suspect this was a misplay by Arrowhead, thinking, hey, let's slow them down because we were making such fast progress on Erata Prime. They wanted to kind of split us a little bit, slow us down, move everybody over to Estanu, and then head back over to Erata Prime to really stretch out the major order across the full 4 days without having to launch from Oshane. And so they decided to launch that attack from Estanu, but the players did not bite on it. So I think it was problems on both sides. Arrowhead thought it would be a good idea, have the Gambit opportunity, move us over, but the players decided not to take the Gambit opportunity on Hellmire. I guess we can call it Hellmire Gambit denied at this point if we want to use some kind of chess terms. We are spread so thin right now. We still have a chance to save Hellmire if we all just, or at least 30% of people, move from Erata Prime over to Hellmire. We can at least finish that defense and then move back, liberating Erata Prime or Estanu. Right now, it is not looking too good. We'll have to see how things play out over the next 24 hours. I think this major order is going to end up being a loss, and then we're going to have to deal with a rupture strain on Hellmire, and that is something we do not want. We don't know how this new rupture strain is going to look because it was a little buggy before. We always have high hopes that these bugs will be fixed in the next week, but say that patch does not come out, what is the next major order going to look like? How are we going to move forward with Hellmire lost? We'll lose access to the Hive world for story purposes. We won't have Hive lords to fight, so if you wanted to go fight one, you won't have that opportunity unless they move them around the Galactic War map, unfortunately. Now, a note about all the planets that we're going to be trying to liberate during this, right? Erata Prime and Estanu. They both are heavy Gloom Shroud planets, which means we do get a debuff of 40 seconds additional extraction time. So that's up to 3 minutes, 40 seconds if you do have the 50% operational modifier. We will have a 30% Eagle rearm debuff, so that means 140 seconds if your ship is fully upgraded, up to 195 seconds in between your Eagle call-ins. And lastly, 50% ammo pickup, so any ammo you find on the map POIs, and it does seem like it's bugged right now, where even the resupply pods or your resupply pack are both also giving reduced ammo, right? They both giving you 50% of what they would normally give. So be cautious heading in and modify your loadouts accordingly. So now looking at what weapons would be best for ammo conservation, and I've come up with the conclusion of any incendiary type weapons, so your Coyote, Breaker, Incendiary, and your Cookout, or something that doesn't have ammo, such as your Blitzer or your Scythe or Sickle family. Those will probably be your best bet. You could also use the Torturer or Crisper as a secondary just for that flame, but they do use ammo, and you do have to get quite close to the enemy to use those weapons. But if you're going to be using Incendiary, the goal is to use the weapons to burn, not to kill necessarily, unless it's obviously a dire emergency, then go ahead and use it. But you want to let the fire burn on them long enough, so you want to have a majority of the damage coming from that fire and not your bullets themselves. So spray across a patrol or a bug breach, right? Don't just try to gun down until each enemy dies from you shooting it, right? Let the weapon do the work for you. and that way you'll use less ammo across the board. Now, I'd say the next best thing outside of those weapons are going to be anything explosives or eruptor, crossbow, or grenade launcher, because especially on Erata Prime, they have the spore burst strain, which blow up and cause damage to their the rest of the patrols, but there are higher numbers of the enemy, it feels like, on those maps. But it is much quicker to take out patrols because they're all exploding in addition to your explosions. All of a sudden, patrols are just melting away like they're absolutely nothing. So for Erata Prime, I have modified my normal loadout. I do still carry the grenade launcher and breaker incendiary, or breaker incendiaries for close in, but with that ammo debuff, I'm now much more cautious with my ammo. I'm very conservative now. So I really, if I'm using the breaker incendiary, try to spread out my shots as much as possible, see what the fire kills. I do know that like the small guys will die in one shot. Hunters also hit them one shot, they'll burn a little bit. Warriors take 2 shots and then they'll burn and die. So I'll spread my shots out with the breaker incendiary, or if I'm getting a jump on a patrol or something, I'll use the grenade launcher to clear them out. Same with the alpha commanders and the hive guards. Drop 2 or 3 shots into those and they will go down quickly, or try to, if I have time, swap between the two so I can light them on fire and then finish them off. Now, I normally keep an Eagle 500 in my loadout just as a panic button, and or take out any medium or close, tight, formations of heaviness on D10. It works out great for that, so I don't have to spend too much time on some nests fighting through bugs to get a grenade launcher in there or grenades. But I've swapped that 500 out for a machine gun sentry. I know a lot of people like the Gatling sentry, but with how many bugs there are on Erata Prime right now, I prefer to drop the sentries down as much as I possibly can, so that notionally I'll have 2 up most of the time, at least clearing out hordes of the bugs. That way I'm conserving some ammo. If I see my sentries taking out some mediums, I'll worry about the heavies, right? I bring ultimatum and eats for the heavies to help clear those out. I would use the 500 sometimes if I didn't need to take any time to aim to take them out. And additionally, I've swapped out my warp pack for a guard dog, right? With its 8 magazines already applied to the back, plus the 1 in it. And the ammo resupply doesn't seem to impact them, right? Even picking up 1 ammo box, it seemed to completely reload my guard dog. So that also helps clear out a lot, especially the hive guards and alpha commanders. But it was extremely beneficial to carry that with me instead of the warp pack for movement. But really, they are kind of interchangeable. If I wanted to use a warp pack, which I did a couple times, I would use it to run away from fights more than to reposition or anything like that. I would just try to use it to get out of there and move on to the next objective or the next side objective to clear things out. Now, I typically always run siege-ready armor anyways, but I think that's especially crucial for dropping into these heavy Gloom Shroud planets. Gives you that extra ammo. At least my breaker incendiary gives me an extra mag, plus the grenade launcher gives me an extra mag. Even though when you call it in, it's still only going to have 3. It won't give you 4 for it, but you will indeed have that extra, which you definitely will end up using. There were so many times where I was nowhere near resupply. It was on cooldown. I would just call in my grenade launcher once it was off cooldown to be able to restock myself and keep moving through all the hordes and close bug holes with that. Now, looking over at Estanu, since it is a cold planet, and that gives you a reduced buildup of heat in your laser weapons, I decided to swap out my grenade launcher for a laser cannon so I could still clear out large groups of enemies very quickly. I would focus on the small units first, and then I would sweep up to the bigger units, focusing on the alpha commanders last, so that I would get as many bugs down as possible quickly. It also helped out with the heavies. But typically I would still run the eats so I could quickly dispatch any heavies that we had to deal with, take out any of these shrieker nests or the spore spewers. And additionally, it was also giving me an extra bug hole closer. Now, I would swap out the ultimatum for a grenade pistol, so I still had plenty of bug hole closings. Right? I like to think of it as going in if my team happens to go down or if we've gotten split up for some reason. Do I have enough ammunition on me to clear a heavy nest? And just grenades would be a no-go. I would also carry a exploding crossbow with the laser cannon. So anything that was in too close I would use a laser cannon against it. Anything further away, I would use the exploding crossbow just to clear out the hordes much quicker. Again, running a sentry and the guard dog just to help clear out and maintain my ammo stores. If I was getting low on ammo as well, I would start to use the laser cannon more heavily, with the goal of keeping a couple magazines available so that I could swap back off the laser cannon while it would cool down. And I was still running siege ready armor just for the exploding crossbows, especially for the quick reload time on it. And man, this thing is phenomenal at clearing out the enemy's bug breaches, closing holes very quickly. In the quick reload, just make sure if you just run the crossbow, reload it before you are out of ammo. It drastically reduces that reload time, especially with the siege ready armor on there. I also did not swap out my grenades. I typically always carry gas grenades on the bug planets. I thought about swapping out the thermites, but I figured with the eats and the laser cannon, I didn't necessarily need to have any extra anti-tank on my person, especially since I tend to run with other randoms and teammates. So somebody else probably has some extra AT, or they probably have some thermites. I wanted more crowd control for any hordes of enemies that are coming in. So these are just the loadouts that I've been using. If there's something else that you like to use, like the arc weapons or something similar to straight flame weapons, whatever it is that you're doing, just drop a comment down below with what loadout you are favoring on this heavy Gloom Shroud major order. And as always, if you like this content, please hit that like and subscribe to help me grow my growing channel here. And I will see you on the warfront, Helldivers.